Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 78 of the CX podcast R&R with me, Richard Knight, and him over there.
Yes, hello everybody, it's Rhian Huxtable again. Hope you're having an amazing month. And Rich, we've got an amazing guest with us today. Who have we got?
We have, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll already see that we have Lee Trowbridge sat with us today. If you're not watching on YouTube, then you won't have heard him yet. But now is the time for waiting is over, for his dulcet tones to arrive. And Lee's going to say hello, tell us who he is and what he does. Over to you, Lee.
Hello both. How you doing? Good.
Yeah, good, thanks, good.
So yeah, as you said, Richard, my name's Lee Trowbridge, and I run a travel business called Not Just Travel Your Holiday, which I run with my wife. We've been going 7 years now. 7 years. 7 years working with my wife, blimey.
I'm on 8 now working with my wife. Well done, us.
I know, well done.
Scrap that bit. I'll edit it. Don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. What do we do? Essentially, what we do, we book fantastic holidays. But what we like to think our main USP is that we listen to the customer, Richard, and we obviously give that support throughout the holiday process right up until the time that they're back off holiday.
Fantastic. So I think this is one of the main reasons that we got Lee on today, to have a bit of a warble with us. It's around that experience when we're booking, when we're doing all these marvelous things. And this is a really interesting one from my point of view, particularly having been lucky enough to have your services and help us on our trip recently over to Vietnam. It does make a big difference. Even when a holiday is something that we're really looking forward to, you could sit there and say, yeah, but it's different to any other business, isn't it? Because people really want it and they want to go enjoy it, don't they? So actually, you don't have to try that hard from a customer service and experience point of view, because people are really pleased to go on holiday. Yeah. Is that true? How does that work?
Yeah, well, the reason we got into this business, my wife worked for Carnival Cruises previously.
Okay.
We booked our honeymoon 8 years ago now, via a high street travel agent. And quite simply, it was a nice holiday, but the simple thing is they didn't really listen to what we wanted. And it was on that honeymoon that we decided that what can we do to start a business where we actually listen to people, and give that personal service. So hence when the company was kind of born. And I think it is important, nowadays, when especially repeat business is very key to businesses to continue. I think it makes a massive difference. And there is still a market for this kind of service in the travel industry. Yes, we know we've got online markets out there, but I think that's for every kind of industry. But online markets are for people that want to do it that way. And there's still people that want to have that chat with a human being, Richard.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point in terms of the similarity with other businesses. So you can go out there and buy every piece of clothing you could possibly want online, which for me, that's fine, because I don't need to go out and I don't need to do all that sort of stuff. But for other people, the need to go and talk to somebody, try something on, have that time to consider it, to ponder it, to be given different options is a critical part. And when we think about, are there averages in terms of costs that people pay these days for a week's holiday? Is it thousands of pounds these days? Obviously it can change, but
yeah, and I think that's one key part we when we speak to people at initial inquiry stage, is that how much do they want to spend on the holiday, because there's so many different price points, and there still is the value out there nowadays if someone wants to go cheap and cheerful on a beach holiday. But equally, you can spend thousands upon thousands of pounds to get what you really want. So I think our main aim, and it has been for 7 years, is to find someone the value in a holiday rather than the cheapest holiday that can be found.
Lee, you've mentioned a couple of times, as I'm listening intently, that your USP is the fact you listen quite to what your customer wants. What does that mean? Because I see lots of websites that say we listen to our clients, we look after our clients, you'll get a bespoke experience. Yeah. So listening is a really helpful word to differentiate yourself, I suppose. But how does that translate for you when you're trying to set up a holiday for somebody?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays there's a lot of factors that go into people's decision making, I think, and it can be whether, we have to go down to the details in terms of mobility of people. So are they going to want a hotel that's on a hillside or a cliffside? Food allergies, like making sure that people are catered for. Because although a lot do now, I mean, I'm gluten free myself, so I know firsthand that there's some hotels or restaurants that may not cater for gluten free as much as I need it to do. And generally, then just obviously listen to everything that the customer wants to get out of that holiday. As I mentioned to Richard just a minute ago, when we booked our honeymoon, I think the person we were speaking to saw the amount of money we had, Ryan, rather than what we actually wanted out of that holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people come to us with an ideal spend, and they may end up spending over that because what they actually want is beyond what is obviously their ideal spend. But it's about educating that person as well as to what is out there, and I think that's just part of the process. And then obviously off the back of that, actually profiling the customer so that next time they come to me, I've built up obviously a rapport with that customer and a customer profile that I know exactly what they want from a holiday.
So the point you were making around building this rapport, that's a really interesting point, because when we talk to a lot of our clients, and I know Rich will identify with this, when we're brought in as consultants to help businesses with their client listening or with their CX programs, actually we have a really strict process that we take clients through to really help us understand how we can help them. So do you have a formal process that you take clients through? Do you have a checklist? What do you do to make sure you cover all the bases?
Yeah, so we have kind of have a CRM system, and that will have a variation of different questions on there, and we'll go through that. It is a tick box exercise, but obviously when we have the chat with the customer, it's a lot more fluid than a tick box exercise. And do you know what you often find as well during conversation? You'll say things that will trigger the customer into thinking, oh, we actually need that. And it will obviously make me think as well that, okay, they said they need this. Sometimes we get customers to come in that say, we're looking at this hotel because it seems to tick all our boxes. Obviously, if I've sent someone there before and I'm listening to the conversation, I kind of might think, I'm not really sure if this is for you. So it's then again, going through that process of giving our first-hand knowledge to relay back to the customer.
I think that works. That's really interesting in terms of that experience that you have as well, and this goes across any business once again. In terms of being able to use that expertise, but using it when the questions have been asked or the conversations are being had, rather than immediately, well, you want this, you want that, you want the other, because I know better. So there is a real difference between the two, isn't there? And in terms of the way we interacted with you, I know Lucy was organising it, who runs Insight 6 with me, and the toing and froing in terms of, well, what about this, what about that, and it was the amount of time as well that was spent in that listening, because I think it may come across quite a bit that sometimes people listen but don't actually hear. They pretend to do the listening thing.
Absolutely. And I always say to people, Richard, if I can have that initial conversation with someone, I always feel that we can get the skeleton of the itinerary first time, and then obviously we'll tweak it as it goes along. But I think that first conversation is key, because if you don't listen and you come back to the client with something that's completely different from what they said, they will lose confidence in what you're doing, and they probably won't come back to you again, really. So I think you can build that kind of itinerary within the first conversation, and it's just a case of tweaking it here and there to get it out exactly how the customer wants.
Yeah. And then when that sort of itineraries, you've got that in place, and the bookings are all going ahead, etc. You mentioned that you're listening to the customers, and you're going to provide them with a great experience. What does that look like when you've done that? I mean, I've been on the end of it, so I have an idea, but it's good to share that with people in terms of where you go. You know, you tick the box, things are booked.
Yeah.
What happens then?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've laid this out from the very beginning, but we had to kind of differentiate a difference between us and the online market. So when someone books a holiday with us, they'll always get a thank you gift to start off with, be it that might be a guidebook or a bar of chocolate or something like that, you know, just for Lapland bookings, for instance, we'll send a Santa's invite to the kids. And again, that just gives the element that you've shown an interest in the customer and you're kind of taking them along that journey. We'll have touch points along the way, collecting API information. So that's all for the online check-in process when it gets to it. We introduced, and I think you experienced this, and again, it's an ongoing process, but we introduced an outsourced concierge service. Would have been about a year and a half ago now, and that really was just to take the pressure off me and Louise, because we'd set the standards of that customer service. But then, I mean, in the summer months, we'll have like 45, 50 bookings going away in the summer, and it's impossible to manage. And, you know, honestly, like the concierge service is great for us. It's always trying to improve it though, Richard, because obviously if you're giving that part of the business to someone else, it's like anything. I especially me, I'm protective of looking after that customer journey. So that's always evolving. But that, I think if we can get it to a place where we need it to be, it's just getting through that little, you know, kind of grunt work at the early stages. As I say, we do the online check-in for customers. We always have a point of contact for customers, Richard. So when people go away, I'll set up a WhatsApp chat with the customer so they can ask any questions they've got, if they've got any issues. Because look, we deal in a world now where there's going to be issues along the way, but I think it's how you deal with those issues. And you can still obviously come out of that in a good light, rather than just, again, not knocking the online market for travel, but it's very hard to get hold of someone. If you've booked for an online company, you're kind of one of a massive number of people there to try and get through. So yeah, that's generally and there's, as I say, there's touch points along the way. And it's generally just being there throughout that process before they go away for any questions they've got as well. We'll contact all the hotels before customers get to resort. I mean, that's for two reasons. Firstly, to make sure the reservation is there, because there is the odd occasion where there has been a miscommunication via supplier and hotel. So you want to make sure that that's in place. And also just to tell them that customers are coming, and obviously to put something nice in the room on arrival and things like that.
Yeah. And, you know, it's those little things that make the difference.
You
know, a piece of paper in the room saying, welcome, hope you enjoy your stay at this hotel. It does. It makes a difference. And the WhatsApp group piece is really a really nice little touch. Really simple to do, though, isn't it? It's not
very simple.
We're not talking technology, AI, wow, you know, going to get a robot to come and do everything with you. It's a really simple piece of communication, which I think a lot of people forget about. Sorry, Ryan, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to ask about the question. So again, listening intently, Lee, obviously Rich has been lucky enough to experience the experience you provide. You talk a lot about touch points. You talked about value there, because I think, you know, speaking from my own perspective, you know, when I book a holiday, often my natural modus operandi now is go onto the internet, look for a deal, check it out on TripAdvisor, maybe go and look at Google Maps, where is it, how far from the town, and actually, you know, if I've got time to do that, that's quite an enjoyable process. But I think it sounds to me that, you know, your clients are valuing all of that legwork that you're doing, and you're really looking at each touch point. What I really liked was your Lapland example of you thinking about the other travelers that are on that trip and sending a little card from Santa, wherever it might be, say, look, I mean, it's stuff like that really does mark out, you know, a unique selling point being that experience. And what it put me in mind of, Lee, was actually you're becoming part of that holiday experience. You're not enabling that holiday experience. You're doing both. So you
Yeah.
are, you're there holding the client's hand right the way through all of those key touch points that you talked about. But actually, you're creating the magic, the myth, the excitement about the trip before anybody gets on a plane or a cruise or wherever they might be going. Businesses could learn a lot from that. We call that in the industry little big things.
Yeah.
Little big things is so important for businesses that want to differentiate themselves, because it is those small memory making things that people will remember, and that is what drives the recommendation. And the fact Rich has brought you onto a podcast about client experience today, clearly you've left an impression on himself and Lucy, which takes some doing, believe you me. The man is like stone.
Look,
Yeah,
oi, 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 oi.
So well done, Lee.
Lee,
Well done.
we've done many of these episodes, and every time we have one of these, he just goes on a moan fest about various holiday companies and stuff like that.
Well,
so actually, he's one of the toughest customers ever.
that's true. Yes, I do. You're correct. But I have got big love for Jet2, who I think do a great job at that mass-produced travel and really understand those touch points. You get to the airport, it's a sea of red. They welcome you in. They help you put your bag on the scale, and we know why they do that. They want to get you through quickly so that the flight's not delayed. It's a master stroke. So actually, the money they're investing in getting people, in labour to get people through, is saving them a fortune on fees for the airport, for the airplanes being late. So look, I there are some mass travel companies that do it well, but I think what you seem to be offering is something much more bespoke. And you said it at the beginning, Lee, you do that because you listen.
Yeah, I think what you said there as well, Ryan, like Jet2 is a great example. I mean, through COVID, Jet2 were probably one of the best suppliers for us in terms of the package holiday suppliers to deal with. And obviously through COVID, like we all did, we needed to have faith in our suppliers during that period. But Jet2 are actually flying out of Bournemouth next year, starting to fly. So that'll be a good one for customers in that area as well. But it's just look, a holiday at the end of the day, I feel in a fortunate position now, 7 years in, that a holiday is something that everyone looks forward to, right? We work hard, everyone works hard, and they look for that 1 or 2 weeks away to kind of relax and enjoy themselves. So I feel I'm already at an advantage when I speak to a customer, because it's a nice thing to speak about. If I can then go along on that journey with them and get them even more excited, then happy days for me, really.
And in terms of, to Ryan's point about Jet2, they should be paying us. Maybe they should sponsor this, because we've
Maybe they could,
so much. Bloody hell. We'll tag them into this one this time, see whether we can get some dosh out of them. Who are the other operators or suppliers that you come across where you think, that's good, I don't have to worry about it? Are there people like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's a good question, actually, because again, during COVID, it was key for us to know which suppliers we could trust, Richard, because ultimately we wanted to get people's money back if their holiday was cancelled. We wanted that we wanted that flexibility during COVID, because it was an ever-changing world. So what you booked one week might have been on the red list the next week, knowing what happened. So I would say Jet2 were a great example in the package holidays, but it's probably some of the more unknown suppliers that you may have not heard of. So we've got a supplier called Jet Set, but they're completely trade only, so they don't deal with the general public.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, with a company like that, if they kind of pay off the agent, so to speak, then that's their main core business gone. Excuse me. But there's loads of examples, through COVID. There's lots of other suppliers out there. Keone were another one that were good. Emirates Holidays were good.
Yeah, great. And was that just what were the key things that were coming through as good, as it were? Is it the speed of communication? Is it they do what they say they're going to do? All of those sort of things, because that's otherwise it's it's just that sort of feeling of they were okay, but if there's some, what are those tangibles? Because people listening, if they're running a business, doesn't matter what it is, what are the key things that they might be able to sort of copy in? And if you are going to fall over and cough, please do carry on, but fall over silently.
Sorry, yeah.
No.
Sorry, yeah. Just no,
okay.
I think 2 seconds. Let me just.
We got he's just having, for those listening on the podcast, he's just having a little coughing fit.
Lee is quietly dying.
He'll be back now.
This is I don't look my best. This is a consequence of going on back-to-back cruises over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Different country.
I can hear the violins are playing. The violins are playing.
We're all worried about you then, Lee, and then you that was it. We're like, we're not now. Cough away, Lee.
I know,
So,
exactly.
What is it those suppliers do? Is it speed of communication? Is it effective pricing? Is it what's the key for you?
Yeah, I would say so. Speed of communication, having that trust that if things do go wrong in resort or pre-departure, that they're there for you. I mean, I'll give a quick example actually of recently. It was a situation that turned into a really good one, but I had a big group booking for a corporate company. They had flights booked with us. And it was an incentive trip. So what they wanted to do is change names up to a certain date before departure. Now, the supplier told me that we could change names up to, I think it was like 72 hours before, which wasn't actually the case. So they'd miscommunicated, but I'll get to the point what happened. They said the only way then, customers wanted to then change a couple of names about 24 hours before departure. The only way we could do it was book new flights for the new customers coming on rather than changing the names on the current booking. So that, I think, cost them about £1,500 to do. So there were new flights. At that point, I did a little bit more digging into it and found that we could have actually changed the existing names on the booking for a small admin fee. And then obviously we had a little bit of a situation with the customer because they were then aware of this. I went back to the supplier and within half hour, they'd kind of held their hands up and said, look, we did make a mistake. We got the wrong T's and C's. So they actually covered the cost of the flights that we booked. And, the mistake had been made, which they held their hands up for. But I think it was a genuine mistake. They weren't trying to do anything underhand. They got the wrong T's and C's from what they'd seen. And they actually covered that cost. That allowed me to go back to the client then and say, look, it's all sorted. And to be honest, I didn't really know much else about that kind of incident then around it. But I think, it's look, we all make mistakes. It's then that having that honesty or hands up. I've made mistakes in the past when sometimes I've had to say, look, I'll sort this for you. But that's what it's about really for us. So.
Yeah. No, and I think that goes across. Well, we talk about that a lot in terms of these podcasts. Things are never going to be 100% correct. There's always going to be something that's wrong. As long as you can put your hand up, give it the old, yeah, we did it. How do we avoid it for next time? And then move on and provide some sort of response to the issue. So I think that's a great example. So yeah, thanks for that. So moving through to, you mentioned that you've been on back-to-back cruises. So presumably you have to go. It sounds like a really hard life you have. So you have to go and sample a lot of these holidays that are available with various providers, so that you are in that position of knowledge to be able to then give your customers the idea of, yeah, this is a good one, or that's not quite fit for you, etc., etc. Yeah. So when you're on those visits, how good is the service you're getting on those? Do they range in terms of the quality, or is it all good?
Yeah. So I'm going to be like, so when I go on my personal trips, like if it's me and Louise that go away, we don't generally tell people, Richard, beforehand that we're in travel, because I want to see the experience that the customer will get, rather than saying we're in travel and then the service is elevated. I want to see what that standard service is like. People always say to me, like, you should say you do this and that. I said, no, because I want to see the real experience. I don't want to see that they've just laid it on because I'm on board a cruise ship or in a resort.
Yeah.
when we go on the business trips, yeah, they're very much structured into. There'll be a lot. Like, so we went on a Princess cruise a few weeks back, and that is very much 5 days of. We get to experience the cruise ship, but 5 days of training on board, learning about the cruise ship, what kind of demographic of people it caters for, all the dining options on board and things like that. And then obviously it's up to us to come away from that and put that knowledge back out to customers that we feel it would suit.
Yeah.
So it's very tough. It can be very long training days. You know, sometimes you've got to sit by the pool with a strawberry daiquiri or something just to try it out. But we have to do it, Richard. So
no,
and we thank you for that, for your service.
It's all about the experience, Lee. You know,
hats
off to you.
Yeah,
that's it. And I pick up a few little colds along the way, but it's you know, that's all part of it, I guess.
Yeah. No, I say that you know, that's really interesting, because I don't think many people, when they're booking through agents or whatever it is, understand that knowledge piece. And that's another differentiator, because generally, and I was speaking to the other day. I'd done a mystery report for a client, and the researcher had gone to this client, and they had to pay to go in. There was no pricing on around the counter area. They actually didn't know how much they'd spent. They then had to rectify it later on when the customer, or one of our researchers, actually told the person behind the counter that they'd got it wrong, because they went into their website and looked at the pricing and it was different to what they'd got on their receipt, etc., etc. So that lack of knowledge by that person in that organization really did impact the experience that they were having. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to know everything about everything. Of course we don't, because there's places you can find knowledge, but it's also being able to manage how you communicate that. And as long, and if you do have that knowledge, you're then sharing something that's going to put people at ease, I presume. It's going to make them a little bit more comfortable with your suggestions. So do your customers appreciate that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you say, we're never going to have every bit of knowledge to every resort, every cruise ship, every tour. But I also think, and I've said this to people in the past, but if you build up relationships with suppliers at different cruise lines or different resorts, they're gonna give you the knowledge back. That's one of the key things. I mean, the cruise we went on last week, that was a personal cruise for me and Louise, but one of the ports was Corfu, and there's a couple of hotels. It's a chain of hotels, and 2 of them are in Corfu. And we decided to set up a hotel visit when we were there, Richard, to go in and meet the manager of the hotel, and she showed us around. And do you know what? We booked these hotels a lot for people, but what we saw firsthand there was like, wow, we didn't know, you know, this pool was in this area, or you could do this for the kids and everything. And coming out of there gave me a lot more knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm confident to sell those resorts anyway, but now it's given me even more confidence to think, do you know what? This customer would like that customer would like that. And I think it's beneficial that you try and do that, a lot of kind of research into stuff like that, and take your own time as well to see what there is around in our industry.
Can I just ask, again, what was getting to my mind as you were talking, you talked earlier in the podcast about, you know, you've got a nice job, people are generally happy about the fact that they're going to go away, they're spending money on their 2 to 3 week, or 1 to 2 week, however long they're going for trip, you know, which they've been looking forward to. I also think that probably comes with a bit of a challenge for you, because, you know, because there is such an expectation of their time, the money they're spending with you, the fact they're employing you to create the best 2 weeks of the year for them. When things do go wrong, which I'm sure they do, which possibly isn't, you know, down to what you've done, it will be down to other stakeholders as part of that client journey. How do you put things right when things go wrong?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Ryan. Like, I think people definitely get that. No, don't get me wrong, I get a lot of perks in this industry. I think people get a perception in travel that everything is like traveling away, booking nice holidays, and there's been a lot of influx of independent travel agents in the last few years. I think that a lot of adverts you see online is that become an independent agent, you get the flexibility, but ultimately you're running a business like any industry. So when you say there, when things go wrong, you could be anywhere in the world. You could be sitting on a beach on holiday and the customer rings you up and says, my flight's been cancelled. So how do you deal with that at that stage? So again, that comes back to having the trust in suppliers that you've booked through, because you can pick up the phone, contact the supplier and say, look, we've got an issue here. Can you help me rectify it? And generally, I think just giving that customer the confidence as well, that they know that things are being looked after. I think it's very important nowadays. I mean, where we're based here in Stubbington Village, the main demographic of customers we get through here is more of I'd say the 60s and upwards. It's more of a retirement village. So obviously they do want their hand held through the whole process. And it's important for them to know that if things do go wrong, someone is there for them at the end of a phone.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's just part and parcel of it. I don't think anything can challenge us like COVID did, to be honest. So we got through that, and we get a lot of flight cancellations, and that's always been the case. You just have to roll with that and get people on different flights. But yeah, that's we just keep going through that process.
Part of it. No, I think a big tip of the hat for you making your way through COVID. I mean, it's not like just a sort of little a few ripples in the business world, is it? It was a full-on shutdown. You can't go anywhere. Blimey, yeah, hard work.
Do you know what? We had COVID, and then we had last year. I was driving back from Oxfordshire from my mates one Sunday last year, and we had the wildfires in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And Susie from Concierge rang me and said, "You got a customer on the phone of yours that has just evacuated his hotel with his family because the fire's taken." And then obviously it's a situation again. You think, blimey, like what we're going to deal with. So your first port of call is to ring the supplier in terms of seeing what their stance is and what we need to do. Obviously, you're in contact with the customer already at that point as well. And do you know what? Throughout that process, Richard, like we ended up getting them home, and they actually got all their money from the supplier we booked with. They actually got all their money back. They had a 10-day holiday, which ended up being 5 days, but I think they just ended up saying we'll give the whole lot back. I felt a bit helpless this end because obviously I was on the phone to him and he was saying, now we're running down the beach and now we're going all this and that. But when he got back, he said to me, like, I was just pleased you're at the end of the phone because I saw so many people running around thinking, who do we speak to? And for me, just to be relaying messages and saying, okay, this is what you need to do next. This is what you need to. And it's just a reassurance to a customer. Like, that is a bad situation. And that was a really bad situation. Yeah. But I think, again, if someone knows that you're at the end of a phone looking after them, it does make it a little bit better for them to know someone's looking out for them.
It's just that basic human need for communication, isn't it? Really knowing somebody's there. Again, any business, it's the same thing, isn't it? Saying hello, how you doing, demonstrating the interest in you and the empathy and all that marvelous stuff. So just as we come towards the end of our conversation here, I've got a few million I want to spend on a holiday, Lee. Where can you send me to? Go on. Let's tell everybody what these sort of top end things. What could we go on? Me and Ryan are going on holiday together.
You're going on holiday together.
Where are we going? Which island?
Cider drinking.
Cider drinking. Cider's my drink of choice as well.
You can come back on, Lee.
Come again.
Rattler. I love Rattler. I think. Well, I can see you two in Ibiza, to be honest.
Oh, legendary! Is there a nice little chalet up the mountain in Ibiza? Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Lee. Where can people just remind us of you and your surname and your company? We want to give you a big shout out.
Yeah, sure. So it's Lee and Louise Trowbridge, Not Just Travel Your Holiday. Website address is yourholiday.notjusttravel.com. My personal number, I can give that out, and this is my business number, 07901 878 124. And my email address is lee.trowbridge@notjusttravel.com. That's Trowbridge is in the town as well. Everyone leaves the R out and puts Towbridge. I always had that at school. So, yeah.
Mind you, I don't live too far from Trowbridge, so it always seems a bit odd. Yeah, it's fairly obvious, but fantastic. And on the video, people will have in YouTube will have seen it all come along the bottom of the screen anyway. So you can take it from there. And if you're listening on the podcast, go back to your podcast channel, and you will see all of that information in the blurb about this episode as well. Fantastic. Well, I think I need to go away and book a holiday now, because I'm all the excitement. Lee, thanks ever so much. And it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from Lee. Thanks very much.